I'd like to welcome everybody to this evening's town board meeting of Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. I would ask everybody to please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. By the dawn's early light, but so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, stripes and bright signs through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watch, so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the birds singing, gave proof through the night that the land was still red. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Okay, with that, I'd ask our town clerk to please call the roll.
Supervisor Copa,
Here.
Councilmember Berger,
Here.
Councilmember Zucala,
Here.
and Councilmember Marinucci.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Sean Lavin remains in the Carolinas as part of his National Guard service, helping the storm recovery. We hope to have him back here with us soon. We wish him and all of the people working with him and all of the people in the Carolinas and Florida and Georgia and Tennessee who've suffered catastrophic damage from the hurricanes the best. Keep them in our wishes and our prayers, and look forward to his safe return. The next item on our agenda is minutes from Tuesday, October 1st. And I'm going to motion to adopt those.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a couple of announcements and a proclamation this evening. So we'll start with some announcements.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in case of a fire or other evacuation notice, use the doors on the east side of the room and take a right to walk down the hall. Do not make a left in this case. Please exit the rear of the building. Please do not use the elevator. The Amherst Council chambers are equipped with an assisted listening system. Please see the clerk or a council person for more information. If you are a student attending a public meeting and need to have an assignment signed, please come up to the front dais for a councilman's signature.
Actually, our town attorney, Sam Alba, will sign.
When speaking at the podium, please state your full name and address before your comments. And just a reminder to everyone that we're rapidly approaching the deadline for registering to vote. If you haven't already done so, you should do so soon.
Okay. All right. Next, we have a proclamation for Arbor Day. So I'm going to ask Councilwoman Marinucci to present that.
Wonderful. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas this year, 2024, is the 152nd anniversary of the holiday, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of precious topsoil, keeping our waterways clean, trees reduce heating and cooling costs, help us conserve energy, and reduce harmful air pollution. Trees moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide a habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and beautifying our communities. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, we thank the members of the town board of the town of Amherst do hereby proclaim June 9th, 2024 as the official Arbor Day celebration event in the town of Amherst and urge all citizens to celebrate the 152nd anniversary throughout the year of this important event and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and further urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden their hearts and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 public hearings this evening. The first is the first public hearing and request for funding for the 2025 Community Development Program Annual Action Plan. This is our block grant funding and home investment partnerships program. I'm going to ask Lori Stillwell from our Community Development Director to please go ahead. I'm going to motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And if you would.
Great, thank you. As the supervisor said, I'm Lori Stillwell. I'm the Town of Amherst Community Development Director, and this is the first public hearing for the development of our 2025 to 2029 5-year consolidated plan and also our 2025 annual action plan. Amherst receives federal entitlement funding from HUD for the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG program, and also the Home Investment Partnerships program. And together, the 5-year consolidated plan and each year's individual action plan outline how the town will spend those funds. So this year, we are undertaking the development of a new 5-year consolidated plan to guide how we'll spend HUD funding. And this plan will be in effect for programs year 25 through 29. Tonight, we're asking the public for comment on both the goals and the priorities that the consolidated plan will direct funding towards and any specific programming to meet those goals. Before I go over eligible activities, I'd just like to touch on the planning process. So the consolidated plan guides our use of federal funds for housing, community development, and economic development activities. It starts with an assessment of housing and community development needs and an affordable housing market analysis. From there, a strategic plan is developed that outlines the goals and priorities for funding based on the needs identified, including citizen input and stakeholder engagement. So public comments are important. Finally, an annual action plan is drafted to outline the specific activities and programs the town will fund in a given program year. Our consultant, our Harrison studio, is currently working on conducting the needs assessment and our market analysis, and these draft reports will be released in December. HUD also requires the town to conduct an analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. In other words, how to evaluate whether or not the town is housing accessible. The town has joined on with Erie County and our other regional entitlement communities to conduct the analysis on a regional basis with the help of our consultant. The analysis will look at housing discrimination, ADA accessibility, affordability and cost burden, racial and ethnic concentrations of poverty, and how our market or local laws influence access to housing in high opportunity areas. The town of Amherst as a whole is considered a high opportunity area. And the draft of the analysis will be available in December with the other documents. So tonight we're focusing on the types of goals and priorities citizens would like to see. Here's a few examples of the goals and priorities identified in our current consolidated plan. So they include improving existing housing stock, promoting affordable home ownership, improving weatherization, supporting new affordable rental housing for seniors and low-income families, eliminating slums and blight, supporting vulnerable populations, and economic development or neighborhood improvement activities. Every annual action plan must also dictate specific projects that will further the goals and priorities. All the projects seeking federal funding must address housing and development needs within the town and also be eligible activities as determined by HUD. So HUD kind of narrows it down from there. Under CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, eligible activities include neighborhood reinvestment and housing rehab, including weatherization and lead paint remediation. Development activities are also allowed as long as they're tied to a public purpose, such as acquisition of land, demolition, or environmental remediation. Public service activities are also eligible and include such things as after-school programs, services for seniors and the disabled, and counseling for people at risk of losing their homes. Public infrastructure and neighborhood improvements such as sidewalk repair, community center improvements, pedestrian amenities, and park improvements are also eligible activities, but they must be located within specific census block group neighborhoods. So the green areas on this map are those specific block group areas where you could do public infrastructure projects. In addition to being an eligible activity, any CDBG activity must meet one of the 3 national objectives. So you must be either assisting low and moderate income populations, addressing a slum and blight condition, or meeting an urgent need. Under the home side of our program, eligible activities include homeowner and rental housing rehab, such as roof replacement, addressing code violations, or adding handicapped accessible features. Home also allows for activities that improve access to home ownership, such as our first-time homebuyer program, or purchase subsidies, and tenant-based rental assistance. Home is a little tighter in its eligible activities. So this slide goes over what kind of funding we usually get. We're an affluent community, so we don't get a ton of HUD funding. In 2024, we received $637,351 in CDBG and roughly $830,000 in Home Investment Partnerships Program. 7% of our allocation, our CDBG allocation, is shared with the Village of Williamsville. On the home funding side, we also share those funds with the towns of Cheektowaga and Tonawanda as part of our home consortium. The home funds are split evenly after administrative costs are taken out, so Amherst share usually any given year ranges from $250,000 to $300,000 of home funds. Our 2024 activities included homeowner rehabilitation program, that's our most popular program, the first-time homebuyer down payment and closing cost assistance program, domestic violence assistance, housing counseling, weatherization services, and Meals on Wheels program support. That's not everything listed on the slide, but those are our big ones. For 2025, we're anticipating that Congress will level fund us on both sides of the programs. So this is just a review of the schedule for the plan process. So tonight's public hearing kicks off the first of a 30-day public comment period with requests for funding and comments due to the planning department by November 15th. And then a draft of the 5-year consolidated plan and the 2025 action plan will be made available on December 18th, beginning a second 30-day public comment period. The draft 5-year consolidated plan will also include the findings of the community needs assessment, housing market analysis, and the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. The annual action plan will also be released on that date and outline the funding activities for program year 25. The draft plans will be made available for public review in the town's libraries, planning department, town clerk, village hall, and online under the community development section of our website. And then we'll host a second public hearing, usually the second town board meeting in January, where we'll take public comment again on those draft plans. And then town staff will respond to the comments received and put out a final plan before the board for approval before February 15th. So once approved, the 5-year plan and the action plan will then be submitted to HUD. We're required to submit everything to HUD by the end of February every year. So at this time, I'll open it up for comments from the board and the public for any priorities or specific funding programs people would like to see. And comments can be taken tonight or submitted to the planning department in writing up until November 15th.
Okay. With that, I'm going to open up for the board first. Are there any questions or comments about potential programs? We've all been through this a little bit. I'm going to open it up to the audience if there's any comments or thoughts that people have about potential funding opportunities for the HUD block grant funds. I'd invite you to please come up and share those. See none, I'm going to motion to close. Okay. No, you don't need to sign in.
Okay, all of these things.
Shelley, can you just state your name and address? Thanks.
Shelley Schratz.
Thanks.
All of these things sound great, okay? The concern is, we're at this moment in time, there's this many people here, okay? How are you going to get the word out to the people to have their voices heard, to come and understand this before we have what happened the last time, you know? I mean, just, you see what I'm saying? I mean, because you want them to comment, correct? You want people to give you their comments?
So,
Lori, why don't you explain what your process is, please?
Okay, I understand the process.
So this is a request for funding stage of the process. So at this point, we're just kind of asking folks to, if there's a need in the community that you know of, or you're like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we had this program, or I'm seeing a need here, or, I have department heads come to me and say Meals on Wheels Kitchen needs some assistance or upgrades. This is the time where we seek those requests, right? And then we put out a draft that will go back out to the public for additional comment.
But don't you also send letters to different organizations and groups, a significant number?
Correct. So as part of the 5-year planning process, we reach out to over 100 different neighborhood organizations and nonprofit organizations based on need. So there's direct solicitation as part of that as well. And the town, as part of our adoption process, we have a citizen participation plan that we follow. And so this is just one of the avenues to participate.
So I have a question to that.
sure.
Fran, do you still have the list of all the communities and the organizations in the town? Like we used to do it years ago? That way you can reach out to all of them if they're not, if
yeah,
they're not aware of this.
Those organizations all get direct solicitation from the town.
I'm not saying, I mean, I'm talking like the neighborhood groups
They're not, okay.
that have needs, like sidewalks and all those things you're talking about.
So we do notice some of the organizations. If you go back to that slide for the Tim,
Sorry, I'll stand over there.
the eligible areas.
Which one?
No,
The activities?
the map, the eligible areas map. Yeah. So we'll solicit organizations within the eligible areas. Right. So there's only certain areas that qualify.
For public infrastructure.
Right.
For programming, it can be townwide. So we do have a list of neighborhood organizations and nonprofits that typically are eligible for the funding. The hard part with community development block grant is there's a lot of additional rules than what I went over. So we tend to have this general public outreach and notices in the B, and we come to town board meetings because we can get a bigger audience there rather than holding a public hearing independently. And so we try to focus that way through direct solicitation, public events, and such.
So you talked about the sidewalks, okay? And people, the residential sidewalks.
You're not talking into the microphone.
I know I'm not, sorry. When you're talking about sidewalks, we years ago had a plan and we passed it, and I don't know if I haven't looked it up, but it was when if you wanted to fix your sidewalks in front of your house, but you couldn't afford it, it goes on the back of your tax bill. When you sell your home, it comes off. Do they still do that? Because there's broken sidewalks everywhere.
No, but that is a good.
That's a good comment for an idea.
That is a good comment. I will say that we do fix sidewalks as part of the homeowner rehab program, which is available townwide for people who income qualify. So if someone has a sidewalk issue or driveway issue, that is one of the eligible elements of that
And
program.
that's a big thing throughout the town, but the thing was that if they had to pay for it, if they didn't qualify, they put it on the back of their tax bill, so we didn't have people fixing sidewalks and then have 10 of them broken where you trip and fall. That's it, I won't say another.
Okay, all right, thanks, Shelley. Are there any other thoughts about what should be included in the home or CDBG funding? Again, this is an open dialogue, so past tonight's conversation, we will continue to take comments or thoughts via the website and via email. Sure, you can come forward. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Jerry DeCosmo, Meyer Road. My comment has to do with the simulcast that I talked about last week and how there's no commentability on that. This is a perfect example of how people that are watching could comment on this particular public hearing and possibly have some ideas, but not be able to engage with the town board and the other people. Sorry, Mrs. Berger, if that bothers you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I just want to point out that the public comment period's open for 30 days. So people can reach out and my phone number's up there. If you want to discuss an idea that you have or any concerns, you can submit comments to the planning department directly, or you can call me and we could chat about it.
Anything further? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close tonight's public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, we have two more public hearings on the agenda. The first is Resolution 818, the Capital Improvement Program, CIP 2025 to 2030. The second is the Resolution 819, Town of Amherst 2025 budget. I was going to open both of them simultaneously, but I'm going to actually just open Resolution 818, the Capital Improvement Program, CIP 2025 to 2030. Well, actually, I'm going to motion to open both public hearings. It's a joint presentation. It goes budget, then CIP. So I'm going to motion to open both public hearings. You'll have time to speak on either subject matter or both.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So I'm going to do it for Sarah. Oh. So this year's budget, and then I'm going to go through the CIP. So the big portions of this year's budget is the amount to be raised in tax, 2025 versus 2024. There is a tax levy increase. While the levy is increasing, however, and staying underneath the tax cap, we do have, the opportunity to create a rate reduction of 1.32%. So we're going to be creating a tax cut for most property owners. The idea on a median home basically is about a $27 tax cut. That cut represents a median home under an adjusted condition. So yes, we did do an assessment or a reassessment. So in order to compare apples to apples, the comptroller's office adjusted all the numbers to associate to a 62% valuation. So the resultant tax rate will actually be lower, but on an apples-to-apples comparison from last year's tax, there's a resultant 1.32% change, or about $27 on an average house. The budget breakdown looks as such. People have probably seen where some of this funding gets allocated to. The general fund's our largest fund by far at about 53.15%. The smallest of our funds is our sidewalk snow relief districts, and followed by our central alarm district. So when you look at all those districts across the board, that's where we get into the calculation of the levy and the value and the overall change in respondent rate. So basically, if you look at this, a couple of the big issues that we have dealt with in the past, continue to deal with, continue to be, I've decreased in my proposed budget the mortgage tax again, as we haven't found the sweet spot for that mortgage tax yet. Continue to decrease cable TV franchise fees as more people get away from traditional cable allocations. There is an increase in sales tax, albeit not as much as some of the recommendations, but we're pretty confident in where we're going to be in terms of that. We have an appropriated fund balance expenditure. We did very well in our current year performance against our budget, so we're able to return a little bit more than we have in years past. Overall, with again at a 62% equalized rate, we still have seen and created opportunities for $582 million in new property value growth. So that's reduced to 62%. A lot of those projects were projects that came online, such as the 716 Health or the UBMD ambulatory facility, the Roswell Park facility, both of which were private sector built and developed, along with a series of mixed-use projects that we've seen along near like Main and Transit, places of those types of spaces. So that's a significant growth in our overall property value. And again, that's equalized at the 62%. So looking ahead, a couple of things that I wanted to point out were the fund balance allocations. We're still maintaining our 10% fund balance policy. We have a couple of other items that have benefited the town significantly. The UBMD PIF, or Project Increment Finance project, is injecting $532,000. That's a significant increase from what we had projected to begin with. That is just the school portion, if I'm not mistaken, of the project itself. That's tax coming directly into, or that's pilot payments directly into our general fund. Where we have seen some shortfalls on current year variances include court revenue continues to drop. That we think is related to New York State's changing of some of the traffic handling or the vehicular violation ticketing. We have seen increase in revenue in our in a couple of other locations. Am I reading that right? Including the ice rink revenue, and while we continue to see some other like I said, the mortgage tax shortfall this year was the big shortfall, and we hope that with rates or interest rates dropping over the first 2 quarters of next year, in addition to the last quarter of this year, that we'll see some refinance in the market and see the mortgage tax continue to increase. Nevertheless, I've lowered the projected mortgage tax value. Overall, our supervisor's budget for '24, looking forward, projecting at about 11.54% fund balance to continue to stay beyond that 10% fund balance threshold that the town has set as a threshold. And looking forward to some other items, there is a personnel service continues to actually be an area of growth. It shows it at a 0.24% decrease, but really it's offset by an increase in fixed assets, which accounts for projected increases in labor due to CSEA contract that we expect to settle tonight, and 4 other bargaining units that are negotiating currently with the town. Moving forward, again, we're projecting decreases in '25. I'm looking at the decrease in mortgage tax, payment in lieu of tax, looking at a decrease in ARPA revenue, which frankly is out of the budget moving forward, so we won't be using that towards some of our sewer lining, which goes back into the CIP. And we see increases in several other lines, a decrease in debt reserve. So we are an increase in debt reserve. So we, again, just to reiterate, we're looking at that negative 1.32% rate. That's a decrease in the rate. The levy goes up, but people will see a return back to homeowners. So as we look forward, we have several public hearings coming up. The entire budget is published on our website, as is a citizens budget overview. This is the front page of that overview. We are taking comments at budgetcomments@amherst.ny.us. We have public hearings set for this evening, the 15th, the 25th at the Senior Center, the 28th at Town Hall. Mind you, the 25th at the Senior Center will be in the morning. That's an opportunity to change how people access the public hearings and give more people an opportunity to speak and participate. We are holding it at the Senior Center. It will be live streamed and recorded. When we get into the CIP, I did say that I would go back through the debt overview presentation that our finance director presented a few weeks ago to the town board. Originally presented on September 16th, 2024 at a work session, and that starts with bans and bonds. So I'm going to start with bond anticipation notes, or BANs. They're short-term financing, typically 1 year. A project can be kept in a ban or rolled over in a ban for a maximum of 5 years, with financing required each year. Bonds are long-term financing, typically between 10 and 40 years. The maximum term for the financing is determined by a period of probable usefulness. So, in other words, if it's a piece of equipment that has a 10-year useful life, then that determines the payback period. That's set by bond counsel, and they are going to tell us what that life expectancy is. Once the project is rolled out into a bond, the principal and interest payments are set the term of the bond. Bonds can be refinanced under certain circumstances, like should interest rates decline, and we've done that periodically. The maximum time period municipality can finance an object or purpose through debt is known as a period of probable usefulness, or a PPU, which is determined by New York State local finance law. Bond authorization process, and this is something that we've looked at this year. We've had questions on bond authorizations. The town establishes its capital improvement plan, or CIP, each year in conjunction with the budget process. When the department is ready to move forward with an approved project, a MAP plan or report, or MPR, is submitted to the finance department for review, and then to the legal department for processing. The legal department coordinates with the bond counsel, in our case it's Harris Beach PLLC, who provides a bond resolution for placement on the town board agenda. One of several processes may be followed depending on the project. Projects with a PPU of 5 years or less become effective immediately upon approval of the bond resolution by this board. Projects within a special district require a public hearing and become effective after the public hearing has been closed and upon approval of the board resolution by the town board. Projects with a PPU of over 5 years, not in a special district, become effective after a 30-day permissive referendum period, which begins the day of the town board approval for bond resolution. All bond authorizations must be approved by a supermajority, 2/3 of the board's voting strength, or 4 board members in the case of the Amherst Town Board. The borrowing process. The town typically issues debt annually in a single borrowing in the fall. If there are large projects which require early financing, a ban may be issued earlier in the year and then rolled into the regular fall borrowing. The comptroller's office works with the town municipal advisor, in our case, it's Capital Markets Advisors, LLC, and the town's bond counsel, again, Harris Beach, PLLC, to finalize the town's official statement, which outlines the borrowing. A credit rating for the issuance is obtained from Moody's Investor Services. The town's 2023 bond rating was a AA3 positive. I'm expecting the bond rating to stay the same. We would like to see it increased. The thing that would hold us back is the amount of fund balance that we hold. So we'll see where that ends up, but we're looking at probably a AA3 positive, which is in the highest set of rankings. The borrowing is put out to market by a municipal advisor. The town closes on the borrowing typically in November, in our case. Projects with a 5-year PPU are typically kept in shorter-term financing or bands for the life of the borrowing. Projects with a longer PPU are initially issued as short-term debt and then rolled into longer-term debt, typically held in bands for 2 years and then rolled into bonds. They may be held in bands for shorter or longer periods of time depending on what the projected interest rates are. Infrastructure projects such as road, water, sewer may be bonded in year one. Constitutional debt limit. We've had some questions about this in the past. The town has the power to contract indebtedness for any town purpose. The principal amount of debt cannot exceed 7% of the most recent 5-year average for full valuation of taxable real estate in the town. This is subject to certain exclusions and deductions, such as water and certain sewer facilities. The town's constitutional debt limit as of 12/31/23 was 19%, 19.01%. The total debt less exclusions was $177,813,691. The debt limitation was $935,448,202. The estimated constitutional debt limit as of 12/31/24 is 17.30. The total debt less exclusion is $178,389,354, and the debt limitation is $1,031,056,679. With the presentation on 16th, we had Jeffrey Storch from Harris Beach and Rick Gansey from Capital Markets present. Our finance department and comptroller's office, if there are questions about any of that content, I'm sure would be happy to answer general questions associated with the CIP related to how bond issuance works. Moving into this year's CIP, the 2025-2030 CIP, first I want to go through this every year, but how the CIP works. CIP identifies and prioritizes large capital projects, their cost, and funding sources. This follows the town's debt management policies. Implements the comprehensive plan and public facilities plans. Generally involves physical improvements with project costs in excess of $100,000, though really at about $70,000 is where we hit some of our increments. It involves new facilities or major repairs. It is not intended to fund routine maintenance. The town board is sole authority for adoption and amendments. We have a CIP review committee established by Amherst Town Law. This predates my tenure. It serves as supervisor as committee chair, the planning board chairperson, the comptroller, the director of finance, town attorney, town engineer or other engineering department designee, the planning director, the director of economic development, and the planning department staff to assist in process and organization. In our case, our sewer and storm systems are handled by a town engineer, but we also have a head of engineering services that deals with items like water and roads. Both of those people sit on that committee. The CIP review committee discusses progress on a status of previously approved for 2024 CIP projects. Departments submit new project requests for a program period from 25 to 30. Committee reviews and evaluates the new project requests over several meetings and formulates a recommended CIP. I then submit the recommended CIP to the town board with the budget. The town board reviews the recommended CIP and continues to review those during public hearings, as tonight. Town board adopts the CIP with an operating budget. So the town board will vote on a CIP. It can only be amended then by town board amendment. 6-year program from 2025 to 2020 to 2030 that includes 64 projects with a total bonding value of approximately $74 million. The amounts proposed, oh, sorry, I'm ahead. The amounts proposed to be funded in 2025. So we're proposing 19 million in long-term bonding, and we're proposing, we have established 11,756,000 in other funding. So we have funding offsets to that. That includes grants, that may include funding source from a pilot associated with a community benefit agreement. That total is $31 million in capital projects for 25. Breakdown that we have currently looks something along these lines. Right now, the water pollution control facility or waste treatment plant occupies about 28% of this year's proposed funding. Paving, transportation, and vehicles associated with that, and that's heavy vehicles, occupies about 20% of it. Recreation and parks occupies 11. Sanitary sewer system occupies 12. Water lines occupies 18. And other items such as facilities or studies, including a comprehensive plan, occupy 11%. Some of the summary, just looking back and forward, and the infrastructure maintenance, repairs, and upgrades. And then I'll go through a couple of highlighted programs for this year. This is the first time frankly, this drawing was prepared for this presentation earlier today. This is what we're proposing at Central Park, basically to modify and pave the parking lot, provide restrooms, use state money to provide a splash pad, which we already have in a grant, use state money to provide an inclusive playground, which we already have in a grant, use county money to provide a winter market area, again, already provided in a grant. We would be doing drainage, paving the parking lot, adding restrooms, and repaving a couple of the cart paths as trail systems in the southeast end. On Maple Road, this project is entirely federally funded. This project is a recipient of a grant. The offset for the federal funding is mitigation fees paid for by the Costco project. And it is a widening at the Maple Road and Bailey intersection. Again, we've received a large federal grant. The rest of it is offset directly by payments that Benderson Development, Costco, and Dick's corporations will be making in mitigation fees. The largest project on our radar, both this year and next year, 25 and 26, by far, is the WPCF oxygen separation system. Basically, it's a replacement of a 40-year-old cryogenic oxygen separation plant at our sewer treatment facility. Phase 1 will include equipment procurement. Phase 2 includes site work and construction. We will be applying for grants. At the moment, we have to plan on the replacement. It's a proposed pressure swing absorption system. Process utilizes molecular sieve to separate atmospheric air into primary components, oxygen and nitrogen. This process is more energy efficient and much less mechanically complex than the existing cryogenic system. For those of you who don't know, we use bacteria to break down our sewer stuff, sludge. In order to do that, we need oxygen. Liquid oxygen is very expensive to buy. When our system doesn't work, we have to truck in liquid oxygen. We need to do a replacement for the system by which we provide oxygen to that bacteria. Another piece in our CIP budget, with with ARPA fund coming off this year, we're returning 100% of our replacement and rehabilitations of manholes, sewer lining, and that item will be in this area here. For those of you who are trying to figure out its location, as am I at the moment. Is I can't read that. So it's a continuation working up from the south end of the town north. Yeah, well, no, I think that actually the image is oriented so that north arrow is right. That's what's throwing me off. So this is the Walmart parking lot basically in this area. This is Eggert and Sheridan Drive. So this is that area of Eggertsville that sits sort of south of Sheridan, going down to Main Street, and that is that's UB South Campus, and down here is Grover, is the golf course. So again, you have to think about it oriented with north to the right, and that's that area of Eggertsville. So we continue to spend a lot of time relining some of our old sewers. There are some mitigation fees that get paid by new development that offset some of what the town is providing there. And then finally, of the larger projects is the water line replacements for the year. A lot of work in the Pineview Drive area, Cimarron Drive, and Transit Road scheduled for 25, with additional items scheduled in 26 and 27. So that's a lot. I'm going to start by asking the town board if there are any questions they want to ask either on the budget or comments on the budget, or the CIP as they've had a chance to review them. No? Okay. With that, I'm going to open comments. I'd ask you to come up. We're going to do budget comments first. So if you would, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. So again, this is comments and questions on the 2025 budget presented by the supervisor's office. Wait, hold this open. Yes. Okay, each one of the public hearings is separate. I got it. Okay. Okay, Jane, please go ahead.
This is comments for the budget.
Budget.
Okay. I just have a few comments on the process. I'll save my comments on the budget till a future hearing.
Sure.
I would have liked to hear comments from the council members soon. But I'm going to talk about this citizens budget overview document that was put online as the result of the local law requiring it.
Mm-hmm.
I was anticipating workshop-style discussions for the public before we had the public hearings on the budget, but none were held. I expected the citizens' budget overview document would not be just columns of figures like what's in the budget itself. The local law calls for, quote, a detailed account of proposed changes to the property tax levy, including the reasons for such changes, unquote, And there was to be, quote, a document summarizing the key components of the annual town budget in a form that is easily understood by the general public. The local law called for enhanced transparency and participation in the budget process. I didn't see the public participation in the process, and I don't see enough information explaining the changes in the budget from last year to this year in this document when it just lists columns of figures with no explanation. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on the budget? Mind you, so this is the first of 3 public hearings. So again, on the 25th at the Senior Center, 28th at Town Hall. Any more this evening? So seeing none, I'm going to move on to the CIP and ask for comments on this year's capital improvement program from 25 to 2030.
Okay. Comments on the CIP, Jane Cox, Harlem Road. When I printed out my copy of the CIP from the town website, it came out in little tiny print like this versus what we had last year, which was readable. There's a big difference in the format. The categories are different. It's hard to compare last year's to this year's because there's just different categories. Some aren't there anymore. I noticed the section about Amherst Central Park in the CIP shows a plan for only 2025, no future plans. And the expenditures are on what's considered focus area 1 only. So my question is, are there no other plans for the park? And further down in last year's CIP, there was a portion about the Boulevard Mall project, where the cost of the Boulevard Mall demolition project was listed, but this year I cannot find it in the CIP. It seems to have disappeared. And the design and construction of the town-owned roadway on the Boulevard Mall site seems to be missing from the CIP. And also, I noticed there is nothing in the CIP about the Royal Woods project. So could you please address
What was the last
these
one?
issues? The Royal Woods project?
Royal Woods.
Royal Woods Playground project is not in the CIP?
The Royal Park. Royal Park, yeah, okay. Sure, okay, I got it. Okay, yes, I can address all those.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions at the moment? So I'll answer. So Central Park, the extent of the plan for Central Park last year at the time only included the first work area. There was an inclusion of musical fair, potential public theater, and a future B&HV move. Both of those latter 2 items have disappeared from the park plan, and so we don't anticipate allocating beyond this. Right now, That's the portion of the park that the town is focused on. And we don't have a plan for where to go next beyond that. Is we continue to develop the area. We believe that the front corner of the park represents the best opportunity based on the fact that we already have significant state and county funding to start to invest in and to open the park in that regard. Regarding the mall demolition costs and our town roads, the town no longer plans to spend any town funding on road networks or demolition. The plan is simply to have the private sector deal with those items. While we still plan eminent domain, we don't plan to use town funds. The eminent domain is really just a ceremonial component, basically to deal with some existing leases, and we don't expect or anticipate raising any town funds to do any of the work at the mall. And then regarding Royal Park's been 100% expended. It's not, there's no further commitment by the town for capital funding, and so there's no funding in the town's 2025 to 2030 plans. The entirety of the project is being built with a 2024 bond action, or not 2024, 2023 bond action. So we don't have any further investment plans there. There are further comments on the CIP this year? All right, seeing none, I'm going to motion to close public hearings for this evening on the budget and the CIP.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And the next item on our agenda is Resolution 773, amendment on the seeker certification for findings and the final declaration of restrictions for Muirwood, Site A, the adoption of a local law for amendment number 77 to the Audubon Development Plan, and a zoning map for 17.42 plus or minus acres of land from NCDRI to NCDLC, 50 Dodge Road portion, NCD Z 2002-09_E. And I believe we have I'm going to motion. Go ahead.
Make your motion.
I'm going to motion the original resolution.
I'm going to second, and then I'd like to amend it. I have it. So that you can see it underlined above. We're just inserting this one sentence. Resolved that the filed declaration of restrictions from Muirwood Site A be amended and be it further.
Okay, so with that addition, I'm motioning the original resolution as amended. Do I need to take a separate action on the seeker findings?
No, we have
No,
to
we-
vote on the amendment, then the original. We didn't vote on the amendment.
You're right. Okay, so I'm going to motion. So there's a motion on a second. Is there, or a motion, there's an amendment to the motion. Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Okay. On the amendment, all in favor?
Aye.
Now I'll go back and motion the original resolution as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Next item on our agenda is public expression. I'm going to motion to open public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor? First on the list is Tom Frank.
Good evening, town board members. My name is Thomas Frank, reside at 5403 Main Street, and I'd like to thank you for my 3 minutes. I just gave my presentation to the village. It's interesting how you both meet at the same time, and that my question for you today is, will the legislature, the town legislature, pass a resolution in the advocacy of the Glen Park Joint Board as the lead agency agreement for the for the Village of Williamsville, Town of Amherst Central Park Greenway that interconnects all the parks along the creek. That it'll be a 21st century history, environmental, youth and recreation, and educational center project. That one of the major features is the boiler house at 404 Mill Street, as far as converting that into an environmental education facility that's tied into the school districts, the Williamsville, Amherst, and Sweet Home. As far as, but also that this will connect into the Niagara River Greenway and the Erie Canal National Heritage Corridor, that the 2015 walkable village in the Village of Williamsville, the community plan called for the connection of the Glen Park, the Knoll Nature Center, to the Amherst State Park, but it was never implemented. That there's an opportunity, and that's why I wanted to speak about the resolution 818 regarding the capital improvement program that we're looking at as far as the Amherst Central Park Greenway project is looking at a 2025 through 30, a 5-year, $10 million capitalization connected to the Niagara River Greenway relicensing of the Niagara Power Project by the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And number 2 is the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor, that there's history here that as far as Main Street and the creek have Indian trails, that the original the quarries for making the concrete for the canal was made here. Oh, you want me to get lost? Okay.
Tom,
The last thing that I wanted to mention is that this is a part of the New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation.
you have a second chance to speak.
Yeah, the last thing has to do with the New York State Transportation Master Plan for 2050,
Thank you.
that they're interconnected aspects. Thank you.
Thank you.
You do good work.
Thanks.
Did you
All
vote
right.
on it?
Andrea Morganti, you're next, please.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Morganti, and I reside in Gettsville. Today, I would like to bring to your attention committees that have been formed by the town board and certain nuances. Also, Councilman Zucala, I'd like to suggest that when the Amherst Government Financial Advisory Board's bylaws are amended, that they include that the committee follow the open meeting laws, which is similar to the bylaws by the Amherst Committee on Disabilities. This would end the controversy currently ongoing with the board. The 9/11 Commemoration Committee is unlimited, but there have been no meetings in 2024. Again, on the Amherst Government Financial Advisory Board, you have that the membership is full. So I don't know whether or not you have gone ahead and have appointed the 2 individuals we've been asking for and the resignation being submitted. But on the agenda, it says that it's full. The Amherst Industrial Development Agency, no meetings in 2024. The Board of Assessment Review, no meetings in 2024. The Board of Ethics, no meetings since May 15th. The Board of Plumbing and Drainage, no meetings in 2024. Now, there's a committee called the Climate Smart Task Force, but the task force is not listed on the agenda nor their membership. The Employee Suggestion Program Merit Award Board, no meetings in 2024. The Energy Conservation Citizens Advisory Committee, no meetings in 2024. The Information Technology Advisory Committee, no meetings in 2024. Then you have listed the minority women-owned businesses. The businesses is listed on the agenda, but not on the website. Open Government Advisory Board, no meetings since April 10th. Records Management Advisory Board, this board is not listed on the agenda nor their membership. Tree Board, the Tree Board is not listed on the agenda, no membership, and they've had no meetings. And then the Zoning Board of Appeals, there's no indication of the membership. Now, a suggestion is some of these committees may no longer be relevant or can be combined with other committees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Annie Farrell.
Thank you for the time. I was going to actually speak about the survey results and the tax levy, but I think I'm going to reserve those thoughts for another time. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to not do the mic here. Okay. So anyway, Francina, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my thoughts that I was going to present at the second public expression. It's not long, so just please bear with me, okay? The first thing on the survey, and I'll just be very brief, is perhaps the board can take a little bit more time with the budget. 1.32% really, I mean, to me, $27, it's nothing. It's not going to do anything for me. So if you could give like maybe 5-6%, that would be even better. I mean, really. Okay? But anyway, so I'd like to say to the town board that for the past few board meetings, it seems that things are a bit calmer in this room here. I don't observe the eye rolling or not paying attention to the residents as they speak from the board members lately. It seems to me that the mood has changed from a us against them attitude to, okay, you have my attention attitude. It seems to me that the board members are giving the residents a lot more respect than they used to. Now you're paying more attention. You're starting to really listen to what we are trying to convey to you. I believe it is due to the tremendous efforts of the Amherst, New York Concerned Citizens Group, these people out here. They have done so much on behalf of the town's tax-paying residents. A voice for those who are too shy to speak up on their behalf. I believe this town board and supervisor is starting to show the respect this group of people deserve. I believe that you can truly work with these people in order to make this town a better place to live. I believe you can work together to lower taxes and give the tax-paying residents some relief from overburdening tax increases and assessments. I believe you can start to do the right thing, make better decisions, put the residents first in your decision-making. Let's continue to work together to be a more open government. Thank you.
Paul Francavilla. The V throws me off. You kind of write the V and the I almost combined. Sorry. I said the V and the I almost look combined. That throws. Okay.
Paul Francavilla, Williamsville, New York. The other day I was going through the
Can you pull the
websites.
mic down a little bit? I'm sorry. Yep.
I was going through information about the Amherst Central Park, and I found this article dated April of 23. It says, the new Amherst Central Park in the works following town's purchase of former Westwood Country Club. And there's a picture on there of the entrance sign to Westwood Country Club. There's a fence around it. To the right of that, there's a sign that says, contaminated brownfield, caution, no trespassing. What's the story with regarding the rehabilitation of it? And is it going to be safe for, do you want to put a splash pad there? You want to put other things there for kids? Okay. I remember, and I'm sure many people do here, remember Love Canal. So I'm looking to make the town safe.
I'll address that. I'm going to do it right at the end of this public expression round. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Dennis Hoban.
Dennis Hoban, 216 California Drive, Williamsville. Last couple times I've been here, or actually most of the time I've come here, I ask questions. They're either answered untruthfully or the questions are not answered at all. So I figured I got a better idea. I'll ask the question and then I'll answer it for you, Brian. So the last time I was here, I asked why you're building a sports complex for Damon University. $7.1 million we're borrowing, town of Amherst. They're providing $2 million grant, which is our money anyways, from the state of New York. I don't know who's covering the maintenance on that, but they're only paying us $1 a year, and they get to use it for 9 months, and we only get to use it for 3 months. So we're paying 75% of the cost. Actually, we're paying 100%. They give us $1 a year, and you sit up there, when I ask the question, why are you building a sports complex for Damon University? You said you're not. You're building it for the town of Amherst residents. I mean, Brian, we don't have the cow anymore, so we don't need your bull, okay? Got it? Okay, second question. I asked why you have these people here that got booted out of New York City, they got booted out of Cheektowaga after they raped 2 women. And let me tell you something, if there's 2 women that got raped and it's been reported, it's more like 6 or 8 women got raped, because that goes unreported a lot. Anybody that's on your panel here that wants to be a judge probably knows that, okay? It's a very unreported crime. There's gangs in these hotels, and they're in Amherst. Why are they in Amherst? That's the question I asked. You got up and walked out of the room. You didn't answer my question. Brian, look at me while you don't have to write this down. Why didn't you answer my question? Okay, I'll answer the question for you. People are leaving New York State in droves. They're leaving New York City. You need to boost up the numbers. You take the census, they're all counted. These illegal aliens, they're counted in the census. You get more representatives in Congress, you get more money, you people stay in power. It's not even votes. They get to vote, it's even better. That's why they're here. What do we have to do? You're risking our safety and security by having these people here. In Cheektowaga, the 2 of these people from the Red Roof Inn, and I call it Culpa's Red Roof Inn from now on, they went out to a Quality Inn in Cheektowaga. The guy had a rifle and a pistol. These people are playing for keeps, Brian. If the gun hadn't misfired, it'd been a murder. Then the guy took out the pistol, I guess, and pistol whipped the guy. I mean, these people mean business, Brian. What has to happen? Do more women need to get raped? Does somebody have to die before you can tell these people it's time to leave? You want to answer my question? I'll stay here for another minute. Answer my question.
Thanks, Dennis. Please have a seat.
Well, answer my question this time.
I don't.
Thank you.
Fine. Spike Murtis.
Good evening, everybody. I came here tonight, and thank you for letting me speak also. I came here tonight and I was going to say something about the speaker system in this room. Now, I'm starting to see a lot of things that either somebody turned up the speaker system, because I'm just going to say something, because I've sat halfway through this room and not been able to hear people speak. Now, a lot of people don't realize that they got to talk directly into the mic. All right? I do understand that. But a lot of times when you are speaking, and I'll say this for you, Brian, you could speak a little bit louder, okay? I mean, we're here to hear what's going on in this town. And I was going to read what I had written out. I do have to thank the clerk, okay, and also Jackie for turning around and assisting tonight, because we had a problem the last time we were here. We could hardly hear anything the whole evening. So please do something with this sound system, whether it's the speakers that need to be fixed, okay, or adjusted more properly. The other thing is, you have a system here, a ventilation system, that is super loud, okay? I've got a deep voice, all right? I do this as a part-time hobby, okay, because I am an MC for a line dancing demo team. So I know how to speak into a mic, but other people don't. So we either need to turn up the mic a little bit, which can be adjusted, okay, or adjust the speakers, one or the other. But the ventilation system kind of really knocks down the whole voice, okay? So if you, depending on where you're sitting in this room, okay, they bounce off one way or another, but they don't really get to the back of the room. So we need to do something with this so we can hear you people. Okay, this is what we come to the meetings for. We want to know what's going on here. So I thank you for your assistance tonight, being very cordial to me, okay, and being very cordial to my wife and assisting her, because she was telling me that she couldn't hear a damn word. Excuse my language, but that's what it was. And I did talk to Angela and I did talk to Michael the last board meeting and discuss this. So somewhere in between, okay, something's been done. And no matter what you shake your heads, but it is a lot different tonight than what it's been in the past. So I thank you for whatever you did, but there's still more that needs to be done. Okay, so thank you very much for letting me speak to you, and I thank you for being very cordial to me. That's all that matters, and that's the reason why we've seen a big change in this board in the last couple months. It's been very respectful to everybody, and that's what really counts. All right, so thank you. And I'm done for the evening, so.
Is there an audio problem in the audience tonight? You can't hear tonight back there? Okay. I will continue to look at that. Matt Plunkett, please.
Wait, to say something.
I think it's important that we also acknowledge that the speakers so far tonight have been frequently speaking and know how the microphones work. There's only so much that we can do in training others and as we remind speakers to speak into the microphone, but everybody who's spoken tonight has been here before and has used the microphones before, so it may sound different than in other meetings when people aren't as familiar with the technology. This technology
Go
specifically.
ahead, Matt.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. There, I'm speaking into the microphone. I just want to follow up on Mr. Hoban's comments. I too saw the story about the asylum seeker from the Red Roof over here who drove to Cheektowaga to pay back another asylum seeker over in Cheektowaga. I have to say, as a resident of the town of Amherst, I was a bit disturbed to see that somebody in the Red Roof Inn over there, who's here pretty much as a guest of the taxpayers of the state of New York, had a rifle with him. You know, I don't know how that happened to take place. And then, you know, there was an article on the Channel 4 website. The victim of, I'll read a little bit of it. The victim of the attack will recover. Police say the suspect was staying at another migrant housing location at the Red Roof Inn in Amherst. Cheektowaga police say they were informed a day later both men had been removed from the local migrant housing program. If they've been removed from the local migrant housing program, where in heaven's name are they? Somebody's still out there wandering the street with a rifle, and the article didn't mention a handgun. Mr. Hoban mentioned a handgun as well. And the article went on, and the article on Channel 4 website said that the suspect remains on the loose as of Friday night, and this was as of last Friday night because I guess the attack took place a week ago, this past Sunday. Then this is a developing story. Check back for updates. The update I'd like to hear is some kind of information from the police in this town about the number of auto break-ins and other property-related types of crimes that I understand have skyrocketed in this town since the asylum seekers were brought here from New York. And, you know, I don't know. I think asylum seeker is a term that somebody concocted in order to, put a veneer of legality on people who aren't in this country legally. If they're here to seek asylum and they have to run around with a rifle trying to shoot a guy in the next building over, maybe they shouldn't be granted asylum. That's all I got to say about it.
Anissa Sarajlik? Did I get that close? I don't know. Okay, close. Could-
I'm not public speaker anyway, so I just, okay. I'm sorry? My name is Anissa Sarajlik. My name is Anissa Sarajlik. You hear me? Okay. And my address is 123 Windermere. And I was recently here to check something, and I was informed about this meeting because nobody never sent me a letter, or I don't have time to find this and be here every time. But anyway, I have a couple questions here. I have some problem and I need appointment with Mr. Kupka. I need to talk to you about something. Is so much people, I don't. I'm sorry, I never.
If you have some personal things you want to talk about, you can meet with someone individually and we can see how we can help you.
Okay, I tried, but I'm not satisfied. I need somebody who can help me and explain me something and give me way to solve that. Absolutely is not acceptable like that. My question about budget, what additional service will you be provide with the increased budget? You keep rising taxes in this year, also rise assessment base, in some cases over 100%. You mark that how I follow your talking, you told about 62 approximately, but it's more, my 102%. And other question, this kind of increase in 1 year is very unreasonable, especially for senior citizens with fixed income. And they make mistake. I want to talk to you about that. Anyway, it's not for audit. I don't want to bother them.
With my office, but I will try to answer the percentage question after everybody's spoken.
Okay, and I not understand so much everything, but I understand something really understand because they touch me so much. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Is there further comments or questions for this round of public expression?
Jane Cox. I want to thank the man that talked about the sound system in this room. The microphones in front of the council members are directional. If you speak directly into them, we hear you. If you turn your head and talk to someone next to you, we do not hear you. This microphone should be on this side of the podium so that when people are addressing the board, it picks up. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't know there was a second. Oh, okay.
Good evening, town board members. My name is Don Smith, North Long. Didn't plan to speak, but the only thing I can actually speak on is the importance of public expression. As far as I understand it, public expression isn't specifically called out as a legal requirement of town board meetings. Therefore, it's something that's done between the town board and the residents. It's essentially a conversation between the town board and the residents. I think that's very important. I think that requires both sides to listen and understand as best they can to what the people are asking and what they want. And I think follow-up is probably the single most important thing, important to all that sort of thing. I suspect that follow-up is where we're sort of weak. And follow-up is because we don't either write it down, or we don't think it's important, or we dismiss it. But I think follow-up should be done more, to the point so that the conversation is maintained and gone through, and that with this connection, which is the only thing you got that you're connecting with your people, is through this public expression. That's where you make your connections. You've got to maintain that. That's my point of view. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Town Board. I'm here as a representative of the Town's Recycling and Waste Committee. And for, the comments previously about the Town Board advisory boards, part of the issue that we have with all of them is just a lack of people volunteering for them. On our committee, it took almost a year to fill 4 slots because, it's, even with our committee, which is a public outreach committee, because I'm sorry, I can, okay. The committee is in the parking lot here at the farmers market, so we get to interact with people all the time, and we still have problems finding people for these boards. So if there's anybody out there that wants to be involved with the town, the advisory boards are available, and the town has them all on their website. So just, and the way to get in touch with, the correct people to get on the boards, or contact one of the board members. Anyway, the reason I'm here, we are holding our 3rd annual pumpkin drop-off program at the Highway Department on North Forest on November 2nd. And thanks to the cooperation with the village trustees, the village of Williamsville will also be holding a drop-off site in the municipal parking lot behind the village hall on the same day, same time, from 10 to 1. This program, as well as our organics recycling program, which you may know as our food scrap drop-off program, which is what we do in the parking lot. I mean, it's a year-round program that we do in the town, and every single pound of scraps, kitchen waste, your peelings, your coffee grounds, and the like, every pound that we collect is 1 pound less that goes to the garbage, which is 1 pound less that the town has to pay for, because the town pays for garbage pickups by a pickup plus a weight once it's in the truck. So all of the stuff that we collect is composted at a facility up on New Road in North Amherst, and I'm hoping that people here, and we're trying to get the word out that this program will be available to town residents on November 2nd. So whether they're carved or uncarved, we'll take them, we'll compost them. So I will leave flyers at the desk there so that people can, if they want one, they can take them with them on the way home. Okay, that's it.
Further. Going to continue with the board meeting. I'm going to come back and address some of these questions at the end. So I'm going to motion to close public hearing, public expression.
Second.
Was there a speaker? I'm sorry. Just, that's fine. Come forward. We didn't close it yet. So.
I just have a question about the budget. A year ago when we did the budget, it was very disheartening to have the meeting during the day when some of us were here before we were going to vote on it the following day or whatever that was. Is there going to be more clarity? I mean, the people really didn't understand or know what was going on. And the one meeting, I mean, Jane Cox, it was myself and 2 other people. And we asked so many questions, and we said, you looked at the rest of the board. I'm hoping they're going to have something to add, and then we'll get it. Then we'll know when it's time to vote. And then we heard nothing else. The election came. Then you had the meeting to approve the budget. We were short some people. I often wonder how that happened. And then people were here, they couldn't speak, and you just passed the budget. I hope that this is not going to be a replay of that. Don't look at me like that, Michael. A replay meaning people are concerned. People are scared. Our seniors don't get what the immigrants get, the refugees that are here get. They don't get that. They worry day in, and I'm not blaming you for that. That's the state, and that's the county, and here we are. But what I'm saying to you is that the people deserve to know that, is there going to be another meeting? Are you going to have another conversation about the budget? Is the budget going to be, when is the budget final?
There's a timeline on the website.
I'm gonna go through. I'll go through all the answers to that.
Because what happened last year was that we came to talk at that work session, and we were told we couldn't, and you had voted. So I've had 3 women reach out to me in the last 3 days and ask me if that would happen again. And I also today had a woman call me who's in her 80s and their 70s, and they try to get their taxes down and they can't. So when they see the budget, I think it's important that they understand while the budget and certain things have gone down, the 11.4 last year is still there, and it's gone down a little. So they're still nervous about how they're going to pay their bills. And that's where communication, and that's where these committees are critical. To ask for people to join committees when they're being neglected, when they put their names in.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, good evening. Julie Van Lente from Snyder. Hadn't planned on speaking, but a few of the issues that
Can
have
you speak into the microphone?
Yes, and that's one of the things I want to comment on. When you're in the back, I've been here multiple times, and we're either too close where it's really crackly and garbled, you can't understand, or not close enough to speak properly into it. If you're watching from home, you hear the film is only on this podium. You have no idea really who's talking up there, and you don't see the screens. It's really not good for people who are unable to get here. The speakers are terrible back there. We really can hear maybe half, if anything, of some of the quieter speaking people, and it's very difficult to hear. I'm thinking, given what we heard tonight about the Info Technology Committee not meeting in 2024, I think, or for most of the year, it might be a good idea to get them together, whoever they may be, or get them on a committee, get whoever runs these things to get together to figure out how to make this more accessible, more for hearing and sight for people who are here or not here. It gets frustrating for you as much as for us, I'm sure. The other thing is that, and I had mentioned before that there were 30-some committees. This was at a meeting a long time ago, and there weren't people listed or anything. I just checked the website to have people. Word of mouth probably isn't the best way to get volunteers, and if they want to, I don't see anything apparent, because I'm just average person here, that makes it obvious for how you would go, who you contact for each of the committees, what it entails, and what the procedures are to apply to be on one of these committees. So it might be worthwhile to put something on the Amherst website for that, and maybe everybody would be much happier, because input is not a bad thing, and you can get way more people working with than against with that. And that was my main thing, so thank you.
Move to close public expression. I'm gonna, if there's nobody else, I'm gonna move to close public expression, return to the rest of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do have a consent agenda this evening. I'm gonna ask our town clerk to please read tonight's consent agenda.
Councilmember Zucala, 1. Town Attorney, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Town Clerk, 1, 2, 3. Building Maintenance, 1. Central Alarm, 1. Controller, 1. Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3. Highway, 1. Human Resources, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Police, 1, 2, 3. Seniors, 1, 2. Sewer Plant, 16, 1, 2. Youth and Rec, 1, 2. Communications, number 1, refer to attorney. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda existing is Resolution 821, which is a lighting district extension, miscellaneous parcels. Has been subject to a public hearing. We've had 3 removed parcels from the list. I'm going to motion to adopt the final list this evening.
Second.
On the question, I would ask our town clerk for a voice vote, please.
Supervisor Culpa?
Yes.
Councilmember Berger?
Yes.
Councilmember Zucala?
Yes.
And Councilmember Marinucci?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution 837, the CSEA Collective Bargaining Agreement for 2024-2028 was ratified by CSEA last week. I'm going to motion to adopt the CSEA Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on our agenda, I'm going to motion to suspend rules for purposes of introducing one Article 7 matter settlement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to motion to adopt a settlement of an Article 7 matter with the Country Club of Buffalo Incorporated versus Town of Amherst. Kindly adopt the resolution following settlement of the above matter as detailed in the attached stipulation of settlement and order, authorizing the interim town attorney Samuel A. Alba Esquire to assign the attached stipulation of settlement and order as attorney for the respondent Town of Amherst. A motion to adopt the finding or the settlement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to motion return to regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to motion to open up a second round of public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At the end of this round of public expression, I'm going to go through all the questions that I can answer. If there's anybody who wishes to speak again, please come forward.
Yeah, Danny Farrell, Park Haven Drive. I want to go over a little bit of what Shelley Schratz was saying. And this is concerning that 11.4 tax increase. What you guys have to understand is that us senior citizens, I'm on a limited budget, okay? And I'm not the only one. There's a ton of other people that are out there that are on limited budgets. Because of that huge tax increase that you imposed on us last year, I paid over $1,000 more in 2024 than I did in 2023. Now, for me, that's a ton of money, okay? So keep in mind for that. Now, if I have a snow blower that I have to replace, I can't replace it. You know why? Because that money went into your coffers. So when you're doing this budget, I am pleading for you to take a look at it. I was being serious when I was saying, try for 5 or 6%, okay? You might laugh at it. I'm not laughing about it, okay? Because that's going to save me a little bit more money. Maybe I can repair my driveway that's aging, okay? So for the senior citizens on limited budgets that are in this town, which there are a lot of that do pay their taxes, but have a hard time when you guys are just really blowing everything out of the water, okay? Just please, keep it in mind that we try to do our best in paying our taxes, but you make it very difficult. It's hard on us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Thomas Frank, and I just wanted to mention the fact that Andrew Dungeon has to have permission from you, Brian, in order to have access to the boiler house to remove the asbestos for an adaptive reuse. And I just want you to know that the Ellicott Creek is the lifeblood of the village of Williamsville and the town of Amherst. As far as the sidewalks, the water lines, the sewer lines, and the highway storm sewers, that the groundwater table erosion is all connected to the Ellicott, the Amherst Central Park Greenway. And the Greenway concept is a statewide concept, which, you know, it's time to put it together. If you look at the water out here where the dam is down, you know, it's, we're looking at a development process for the management and maintenance through 2050. Great, thank you.
Thanks.
And it's part of the Niagara River Greenway.
Good evening, Town Board members. Don Smith, North Long. I want to express my disappointment, and the comments of Jane Cox were right on. It doesn't seem to me that the Town Board has taken seriously the concept of helping the residents and the people of the town to understand the budget better than they did before to this year. I don't think it's a serious effort on the part. It doesn't appear to me that way. It seems to be done in sort of a, oh, we got to do it sort of thing, you know, or sort of we're resigned to doing it. So I understand it takes effort. I understand it takes extra work. And I understand that it's probably something you probably don't want to do while doing other things. But as I said it earlier, this is the conversation. And if you want the conversation to be more meaningful, you got to put more effort into it. You've got to do what Jane said here to do. You've got to go and observe what you said in your own local laws. You can't have people believing that you will pass a local law and then ignore it. That's not going to work for either us or you. Trust is lost. So you've got to work a little harder. One of the reasons I have not made any comments yet, because I intend to save it for the senior center when you're there. And on detail, I have plenty of things to talk about in the budget, but not today.
Okay.
But today is the process issue. Today is the issue of process. How is the process going to be between you and the rest of us? And that doesn't just mean anyone of any political party. That means all political parties and no party whatsoever. That's all of us. More effort is needed on both parts, but especially right now, I think on your part. With the local law not being observed and with the concept of we don't really want to meet your needs as our customers, what's our reaction going to be? We ask for more, we're hoping for more. Right now, as far as I can see, the process isn't there yet. Please make some more effort. Thank you very much.
Back again. Dennis Hoban, 216 California Drive. You said earlier that you were going to build at the Westwood Country Club, you're going to build a splash pad and you're going to repave some pathways. And let me think, what else were you going to do? Parking lot, put some drainage in at a parking lot and a playground, right? I guess that's it. So I guess my question would be, and I'll answer it, of course. You spent $8 million of our money, probably in a bond, so it's going to cost us a lot more than $8 million. Am I correct? It was a bond, I guess. You probably didn't have $8 million sitting around, right? And you have no plan. I mean, that doesn't sound like a plan to me. Do you have a plan? Okay, I guess I'll answer the question. From what you said tonight, you're pretty clueless. You have no plan. You spent $8 million of our money to basically bail out Mensch Partners and give them $5 million worth of profit, and you have no plan. You were going to build a musical fair there and move which that would have been horrific. And you were going to build, you were going to move the museum. That would have been a really bad idea. So basically, you have no plan. That's what I'm hearing from you tonight. All right. Well, thank you very much. Good job, Brian.
Okay.
Matt Plunkett.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. Coming to these meetings over the last, 10 or 11 months, I've noticed from time to time people stand here and they complain that one of the problems with this board is that it's a one-party board and so on and so forth. And I don't know whether that alone is the problem. And the reason I say that is you can draw a comparison between our town board and the town board of the town of Tonawanda, which I believe is a one-party board. And if I'm correct, it's the same party as the members of this board. And an interesting point of comparison is what the town of Tonawanda did with Brighton Park versus what this town is doing with Royal Park. The town of Tonawanda is doing a complete renovation, a major renovation of Brighton Park. It's been ongoing, and I think, in fact, most of it was completed this summer. And one of the things they did is they went out and struck a deal with Paddock Chevrolet. And Paddock Chevrolet agreed to pay $3 million to the town of Tonawanda over the course of 20 years for the naming rights to Brighton Park. They're going to be able to call it Paddock Park or whatever the full name is of it. And yeah, it's only $150,000 a year, but if that money is dedicated to the park, that will go a long way towards paying for the care and maintenance of the park over that 20-year period. And it's interesting because what the town's getting out of it. Let's see, the town is adding a regulation rugby patch, 4 lighted pickleball courts, a picnic grove, 3 beach volleyball courts. The park is also home to baseball diamonds, an outdoor driving range, and batting cages. All of those things are already there or are being put in, and it's for the people of the town. We're building Royal Park, and it's largely for the use of a private university. I know the residents will have use of it sometime, and I'm not even sure, just because Damon's not in business over the course, Damon's not teaching classes. So actually, they do teach classes over the course of the summer because they run a summer school program. But to say, well, we'll have access to it, residents will have access to the park over the 4 months they're not in session, that's not necessarily true. They run summer classes, and they could probably demand the use of the park at any time during the course of the summer. And under the agreement, they have the right to do it. They're not paying a freaking nickel for that park. If they get the HECAP grant, and all they have to do is apply for it, they're under no obligation to make any real effort to pursue it, they'll hand us money that they got from the state of New York. This town is on the hook already for over $7 million for the park. It's the difference between a board that does for its people and a board that does for wealth and privilege.
Anything further? Seeing none, I'm going to move to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll go through a couple of questions. First, it goes back to the budget question. I did not address, and I will address it on the record in the budget public hearing next time. But thinking about the reason for the change in the table that you're referencing regarding the CIP. So going back for the past 2 decades, the town has used a Word document table and then maintained a separate Excel spreadsheet. So the table that you see annually doesn't actually have any multipliers or have any math to it. So we've switched and made that table the official Excel spreadsheet or the actual spreadsheet. So it's a different software, and we can try to correct the aesthetics of it, but going from a Word format table that's just kind of a dumb letters and numbers on a page versus an actual spreadsheet is what changed in the formatting. So we can look and play with the Excel formatting a little bit more, but that's why the change. Regarding the bylaws following open meetings, generally speaking, I believe that's correct, and we're still dealing with how to restructure those bylaws. But, I think that I can't speak for the whole town board, but I agree that open meetings laws are important, even for committees. There may be times where different committees or boards have to excuse into executive session, especially zoning, planning, HPC, decision-making boards, including this one. But we need to be able to vet exactly when those times are. I'm not going to address all of the board meetings or all of the lack of meetings, but the IDA was mentioned, and the IDA does meet. They have a separate website. The Amherst Industrial Development Agency tracks on their own page. While we appoint members to that, it's not an actual town board. It's an independent agency under New York state law entirely. And then regarding relevant committees, I do think that we have a committee structure that has just been kind of, we need a committee, so we add a committee for something, and then the committee loses its relevance or slips away because that project's no longer being worked on or is changed in direction. So as we step into a comprehensive plan, which is part of the CIP this year, in 25, as we walk towards a comprehensive plan, we do need to build a comprehensive plan steering committee. That committee does sunset with a comprehensive plan typically, but we should use that opportunity to clean up all of the committees so that we have committees that have defined purpose and relevance. And that may also help some of the committees that feel like they don't have enough volunteers aim their way. Regarding Central Park and the rehabilitation question, so Central Park under the private sector had been applied for brownfield tax credits. I've said it before, but the big qualifier for why that park qualified for brownfield tax credits was a single instance where there was a single test bore that found 300 times the mercury content allowed in an area of that nature. That area had no precipitating, width or diameter to it. It was like a single bore. So whether somebody struck a vein of mercury or there was a thermometer factory on the site, nobody can explain that exact spot. The rest of the bores came back in different conditions, but relative to park space, not really anything terrible. Relative to residential, you would have to change it, but it was enough to qualify for tax credits, which under the private sector would be very advantageous. As a municipality, we don't take tax credits because we don't pay a state tax. We don't pay tax on that property. So without that removed, then DEC treats it very different. We have had to test very, very diligently all the areas that we're thinking about working in. They're all clean. There are no contaminant levels that we have to worry about within the sites that we're working in. and are permitted to work in that include that bottom portion of it. So as to the park itself, the reason why our current plans are for the bottom portion alone is because we have to work within a DEC construct. We do have plans, they've been published for the rest of the park. That includes passive development, but it also includes passive development over a period of decades. I've never said this thing should be built out as a full park in year 1 or year 2. This park is supposed to develop over time. So our current plan and our current CIP have to do with the portion of the park where we already have offsetting funding, and we need to make sure that we utilize those grants for that portion. I'm going to, look forward. So as we look at that portion of the park, we've already received about 50% of our acquisition cost in state and county grants. So we're moving along with grant process that have, and by the time that park's completed in a couple of decades, will exceed the amount that we have spent in acquisition. But that's a long ongoing process. Regarding this room, so the change was the amplifier that controls all of the microphones and speakers. We had a board meeting about a month ago, that had no audio in this room, although YouTube was still recording. That amplifier has since been replaced. I think that's why you hear a little bit of difference in volume. That amplifier also controls the adaptive speaker system that is being utilized tonight. Regarding the budget and percentage, so there's a cut. Residents will see a cut. The levy growth is positioned against $500 million in new property value growth. That does not come from the reassessment. Basically, they discounted against the reassessment in order to do this year's budget. So you should see a decrease. Regarding the budget notice and clarity, so from last year to this year, the process that we're dealing with is the same, albeit we're adding a third public hearing. But last year we had 2 public hearings on the budget and a public hearing on a tax cap override. The budget didn't get voted on by the town board. Nobody made any amendments to the budget that would have had to have been voted on. The budget passes without amendments. So the vote was on the tax cap override, not on the budget. I just want to be clear about that. Regarding the idea for naming rights, it's something that we're currently working on. I completely disagree that the park is being built for Damon. It is clearly a town park. Once it's built and utilized, you'll see that. I'm pretty confident of it. Regarding the question of Ellicott Creek that Tom Frank brought up, Ellicott Creek, north of Glen Park, where there's largely town control, the creek has been free and clear and moving pretty well. South of Main Street, or sorry, if you look south of Main Street, we have this problem. I've been talking about the problem for the past 2.5 years. We don't control the dam. It's a village item. The village is studying the dam. They're supposed to have a study out soon, but this channel is a massive issue. It's an issue for residents who back up to it. It's an issue for businesses who have put investment on there. It's an issue for this building. If you're in the ground floor of this building during air conditioning, you'll notice that there's a huge sulfuric smell, so bad that some departments have had to send people home. And it's because the wellheads that deal with this town's geothermal cooling system dry out. The village needs to either figure out how to fix the dam or let somebody else, some other government entity, deal with it. And I think that that's something that I'm starting to lose patience with. but it affects this building, and I feel the town should at some point have the ability to have a seat at the table on this thing. With that said, you know, I'm thank you for your attendance and your participation this evening. We look forward to seeing people at the senior center and with that, I'm going to motion to adjourn the board meeting.
Second.